Okay, we are recording right now, and what we're going to do is we are going to draw this bracket right here. It's drawing H. In some of the packets that I've passed out to different classes, it might be a different, it might be identified by a different letter, but pretty much this is the bracket drawing. So I'm going to draw the bracket drawing. Now, as we get into this, let me show you a couple things here. First of all, as we get into this right now, one of the things you're going to see and you're going to notice is that this particular item right here has a couple of interesting features. Over here, you're going to notice that it has distance, an overall distance of 9.5. That's how that's the horizontal distance, 9.5, and then it's 3.5 up. So we're going to start with that, 9.5 by 3.5. So remember that. So back to AutoCAD. I'm going to start this just with a starting a drawing, and we're just using a straight up AutoCAD template, AutoCAD.dwt. And when you do that, there's no layers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a couple of layers, because if you take a look here, there's only the 0 layer. So I go to layer properties, which is right up here. I'm going to click there. And when I start that, I'm going to make a couple layers. Right up here is where you do that. If you see where I'm hovering my cursor here, hovering my cursor, it says new layer. So I click there. Now when I click here, I'm going to make one layer, and I always like to make them capitalized. That's just kind of like my way of doing things. And if you hit your comma, it gives you another line. So I'm going to make the two. And then I'm going to give them colors. Object, I like to give it a cyan color just so it shows up nicely against the black background. And dimensions, I like to make it red. So I hit OK. Now at this point, I double click here. Object is now current. And I'm going to get to start drawing this now. So for this particular drawing, I'm not going to worry about where I start. I'm just going to start to draw randomly. So let's start. We start the line command, and we said it was 9.5 in this direction. So we'll go 9.5, hit our enter key. And I'm going to draw another one, 3.5 up. That's what we said that was. By the way, these are object snaps that it's snapping to right now. That's how it's getting that. Okay, so we've got that. And now we're just going to stop for a second. All right, let's take a look at what we have. We have this right here. And if you ever want to check your geometry, you can click on the items and right here. And when you click on the items, if you hover your cursor over the intersection, you can actually get the dimensions like that. You'll notice that this grip, which is the square, becomes red. That actually gives us the distance right there, 9.5 by 3.5. We're looking good. So we're off to a good start. Now the next thing we want to do is back to here. Next thing we want to do is you want to offset. Okay, in other words, we want to make a copy of this line, a distance of 3.5 up and 9.5 over. Okay, this is just to show how to do offset. So we're going to do that. So I start the offset command, which actually is right here. Offset command looks like this, like a sideways U. Click on offset. And when I click on offset, then asks me what the distance is. So the first one's going to be 3.5, and I'm going to grab this one and go from bottom to top. And then I'm going to type in here, and if I click here, interesting thing, I can tell how far I want to go, 9.5 here. And when I do that, I offset those. So I've got like a basic frame right now. So the frame is put together. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to locate a center point for my circles here. I've got these circles. I've got a circle here, got a circle here, and it's located, they're actually, their center point is 2.25 from the top, and then 3.25 from each side. So 3.25 and 2.25. So let's go back to here. So we go to offset again, and we'll use our 3.25 to start. 3.25, and we'll go ahead and offset this over to here, and this over to here. And then we'll go ahead and click here, and while we're going here, we'll type in 2.25. We can go ahead and do that on the fly, and only offsets it that far. So we're good to go there. All right, so we got that. We got a basic framework now, and now we have a location for the holes that we have. So the holes, how big are the holes? Well, there's 2 of them, both with a diameter of 1. So we want to draw 2 circles on those intersections. So back to here, we go to circle, and it's center diameter. Please notice the default is center radius, but we need to use center diameter if we want to get the right look. So we go to center diameter, click here and make it 1, and then we do the same thing over here. And I'm going to touch it there, put my enter key, boom and boom. So now it's being built, and now is where we have to start to make it conform to this right here. Now first of all, I got a lot of extra lines here that I don't need, so I want to get rid of those lines. And the best way to do that is the trim command. Now watch the trim command. Trim command is an interesting command. I start the trim command right here, And when I start the trim command, it asks me a couple things. First of all, at the dynamic input, which is right next to my pick box there, it says select objects or select all. Okay, now what objects does it want me to select? You would think it's the ones you want to trim, but it's not. Right here, it's actually your cutting edges. What cutting edges do you want to use right now? And the cutting edges we want to use is going to be pretty much everything. Okay, so you can do that one of two ways. You can just select everything, or you could hit your enter. They both do the same thing. And once you're done selecting, you always signal AutoCAD that you're done by hitting your enter key. So we hit the enter key, and now I can trim out this information. Just going through here, and I can go ahead and trim this out and get rid of this stuff. That is not going to help me, so I get rid of all that stuff. And then an interesting thing about the trim commands, if you right click, you can use erase, because there's some stuff that won't trim right here. All right, so if I continue on here, okay, I want to keep on trimming, and it won't trim, okay, it won't let me do it. Okay, so there's no more geometry to trim, so I right click, and if I choose erase, I can go ahead and do this. Erase this, and erase this and this, and erase that, and hit your enter key. And that's just kind of a cool thing you can do there. Not a huge thing, but it's right inside the trim command, because you don't always get everything. You don't get everything removed like you really want to every time. Now back to here. Now back to here, we take a look at this, and what do we have? What we have right now is we have, we're looking right now at this object, and the next thing we need right here is these corners need to be rounded. And it tells us right here that the particular radius for these is 0.5. That's typical all the way around. So radius of 0.5. So back over to here, and for this we're going to use what's called the fillet command. Fillet command is right here. We click on the fillet command, and then it asks us right now for a radius. So I'm going to go ahead and choose, well, we need to give it a radius, and the radius is, yes, 0.5. And then I can just go ahead, and I can go ahead and pick a couple corners, and look at that. It allows me to change that. And if I want to do multiple, I can right click and choose multiple, and then I can go ahead, and that's one of the options that I have here. So all of those options that you see when you right click are also available when you look at the command line or hit your down arrow key. They just all work the same way. And that is how we get that object, you know, into this kind of a condition right here. So now it's looking good, and now it's looking like the drawing right there. It's looking quite good. And now the next thing are these circles. There are 24 with a diameter of 0.25. 24 diameter 0.25, and they're spaced at 0.5 by 0.5 from the corner. So fortunately, these also happen to be centered right on the intersection of where this would be, which is the center of the fillet. So I click there, type in 0.25, and boom, we got that. All right, now that we have that, the next thing we do is look over here. We have these right here. There are 6 rows and 2 columns on each side. All right, 6 rows and 2 columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to make what we call a rectangular array. And so you got this right here, rectangular, path, and polar. I'm going to go to rectangular. When I click on rectangular, it then asks me to select objects. Well, the object is this one, so I click there. And in AutoCAD, whenever it asks you to select objects, when you're done, you have to tell it by hitting enter, or you right click. They both do the same thing. All right, now here it gives me an array, and I have to tell it what I really want. So how many columns did we say? We said 2 columns, and then we said 6 rows. All right, boom, and then we do that. And the distance between them is 0.5 and 0.5. And when we do that, boom, it fills it perfectly. It looks great, and we can go ahead and click on the close array, and there we have it. The last thing is to use the mirror command. In the mirror command, we take this, and we can go ahead and click on this array, and then when we're done, we right click, and then we can go over here and get our mirror point, which is right here, which is the midpoint. We click there, we pull it straight down, and boom, erase source objects. No, we want to keep them. And there you go. And that is how you would construct the geometry here. Now the dimensions are pretty straightforward. We want to change to the dimensions layer, and we do that like that. We click here, we have these right here, we click dimensions. We'll start with linear. I'm just going to throw a couple of these on here. I won't do all of them, just because, you know, once you've got 1 or 2, they all, you know, it's kind of just a variation on a theme. And I'll go ahead and I can right click and use dim linear here. I'll go ahead and go to here, and put that in there. So I've got those. And then you want to dimension your circles, okay? And so your circles, you go down here and go to diameter, okay? And this right here, we go here, and I pull this down. And when I put this in here, I can actually type in 24x. I double click, and when I double click, the dimension becomes highlighted in purple, and I can type in 24x in a space, and that's what that size is right there. So we got that 24x, and then it tells us that. And then these over here, we'll use the diameter right here, and that would go right over here. We'll say here, we'll put this there, and we'll go ahead and pull this down, and this one will say 2x, and so forth. You guys get the idea. So 2x space, and or like that, you know, whatever. I don't know what I did on the other one. Okay, and then once you got that, the last thing is we want to put a radius of 0.5 typically, and there's a radius command here too. So we got a radius, click right here, and we do that, and we can type here, and radius TYP, like that. All right, and that is how that would work. Okay, so that's how we have it. Now, the last thing I'll just show you how to fix, and then we'll leave this alone, is we need to change the number of decimal places we see here, and that is done by changing the dimension style. So dimension style, you can access it a few different ways. If you go here to annotation, you'll notice that you have your different styles here. This is text style, dimension style, leader style, and so forth. If I click here on dimension style, I can change this to dimension style here, going to standard. I want to modify it. And when I go to modify it, what do I want to modify? Well, I want to modify the primary units. I want to change the precision to 2 places. I hit OK, I hit close, and boom, they're all adjusted right there. So this is how you would do the bracket drawing. That's how you'd make it happen. And yeah, I hope that helps you. I think it will. And that should get you through. And that actually shows you a lot of commands and also the kind of syntax that you use when you're working with AutoCAD. So anyway, that's it. Go ahead, tear into it, and contact me with any questions at tom@springdrive.net. All the best. And thanks for using the Brennan method.